Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Crescent Edges Celestial. Wow, very cool. So Crescent Edges, I'll show you the box here. They kind of came out of nowhere, and their first two designs, the Eternal and the Spade, were jaw-dropping. And not only jaw-dropping, but they were different. Very, very different, especially the Spade. Very different than what we typically see in the knife world. Now, those knives were much more artsy, much more designy than they were meant to be, functional or practical. Now, obviously, they were functional. They are functional. This is functional. It's all like, these are not delicate little flowers that will disintegrate when you try to use them. No, quite the opposite. They are extremely well made. But those first two were really leaning into the designy side. And then he had his third design, which I have also reviewed. That one was a much more utilitarian design. It still had premium elements. And then this one I'm going to also kind of place in that category. Definitely flashy, definitely cool looking, definitely has that crescent edges kind of spice to it, but much more functional than the first two designs. These are available right now, so you can go and check them out in the description. I'll have them linked down there. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And make sure your notifications are turned on for the Metal Complex YouTube channel. Is that a blue blade? Yes, it is. How did they achieve that? It is a PVD coating. So that is a process. It's not a specific coating, but these coatings tend to be reasonably durable. It's not going to be like DLC, and over time, if you choose one of these knives, it's the same kind of deal with like Protex, sapphire coating. It's PVD. So over time, this color will fade. Especially if you're using it all the time. If you are just wanting to collect it, then obviously the color will stay. But yeah, don't expect it to just like wipe away like paint the first time you use it. It is durable enough to really continue to look this way for a very, very long time. But if this is going to be like your dedicated folding knife and you love that blue color, just understand that eventually that blue color will go away with use. But really cool. I do like that. I love the colored blades, and I wish that we got to see more. So very cool that this is an option. Who is the OEM on this guy? It is Riot. So these are absolutely extremely premium. Overall length is coming in at 8 1/4. Blade length is 3.65. Cutting edge is 3.5. Very good ratios. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Now, where did my mini Excalibur go? Oh, it's right there in front of my face. Sorry. You can see here that this is a big knife, almost as big as my full-size Excalibur. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Should be almost exactly the same overall length as the Spyderco PM2, a little bigger than the Para 3. And then finally, we'll put it up against the Benchmade Reptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How is the action on this knife? It's very good. Access to the lock bar is a nice deep cutout, very smooth, very easy to disengage. Beautiful action there. This is a little tight. It's not like old school Riot where it's like hyper tight. This is tight in the way that it will probably break in and get very smooth over time, but it does come out of the box where, basically if you want that drop shut action, you have to move the lock bar completely off of the blade. This one seems to have right here, it's kind of like just a dry spot, right? So if I wanted to, and this is something that anyone can do. I have links for KPL in my description. But in this case, it really just needs a drop of KPL right on the detent ball. Now, a lot of people say they should come factory with incredibly smooth action. I agree with you, but it's also like I just keep 10 weight nano oil and KPL so that I can do this if this ever is a thing. So in this case, there we go. Almost completely eliminated. It really does make a difference, right? Yes, the links down there are affiliate links for KPL. Yeah, that was very commercially, but it also works. Like if you have a knife, especially like a knife that's premium like this, and the tolerances are perfect, a lot of times it's not that there's something wrong. It just means that it needs a drop of oil, right? One drop on the detent ball and we went from being able to hear it and having the blade slow down to basically fall shut action and no sound other than that detent ball slipping into place in the closed position. Very, very smooth now. So the action is fantastic. It's very good. It's just, it might be a little dry. Okay. Let's go ahead and do carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It is it's a little bit thicker. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. This is actually a fairly pocketable full-size knife. It is still a large knife, so if you're used to carrying smaller knives, so this is going to feel really big. But it takes up less room in the pocket than the Spyderco PM2. It is going to be heavier, though, because it's a full titanium knife and not delicate scales and not a thin blade stock. We'll actually go ahead and measure the blade stock here before we weigh it. So I'm going to guess that's 150. Yeah, actually more. It's 157,000. So on the thicker side and some pretty robust scales as well. What are we looking at for the blade material? We are looking at MagnaCut. What's the HRC range? 62 to 64. Very good. Milled titanium, textured titanium, and then we have milling on the inside for weight reduction, fully milled pocket clip, and fully milled backspacer. We even have a milled out spot in the blade, which is very cool. But a pretty substantial item. Still, though, comes in at a surprising 4.6 ounces. I thought for sure it was going to come in over 5. So not bad. Not bad at all. Balance on this knife, right there. Right behind the pivot. That is awesome. Lots of blade helping even that out. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel, or the pinned comment is where my Amazon store is. T8 for the pivot. T8 for the lock bar insert screw, T8 for the pocket clip screw. I really wish that you had hidden that, but it's not that big of a deal. It honestly still looks pretty cool, but I just wish that it was hidden. And then we have 2 screws here that just thread into the titanium, so no visible hardware on this side. It's very, very cool looking. So I like that. I just wish you had hidden that pocket clip screw, but that's not really that big of a deal. Very simple construction, very easy maintenance. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Okay, meat and potatoes time. Let's talk about this knife. Is it actually comfortable to hold on to? Yes, it is, actually. It's got a great choke up spot. This jimping should have been extended here. I really wish we had more jimping. We basically just ended it where it is useful for front flipper jimping, and I really wish that we had just gone down that way. This choke up index finger spot could have a complementing position for your thumb up here, even if that's not a position that all of us really ever find ourselves in when we're using these knives. The hammer grip is pretty comfortable. I can feel the clip, but nothing is sharp here. In fact, no part of the knife is sharp outside of the cutting edge, which is a joke that I have to make, or everybody else will. But yeah, it's actually pretty comfortable. This is just a big open area. Not much of, it's not really confining back here. It actually gives you plenty of room. So if your hands are the same size as mine or smaller, you'll have plenty of room on this knife. I wear an XL size glove, so if your hands are 2XL, even, there's even enough space here, possibly even if you wear a 2XL glove, you might still be okay. Really, really nice. This is definitely, while it is an exotic looking knife, compared to the Spade and the Eternal, it is a very toned down. This is a much more utility-oriented knife than those, than those 2 original designs. This is a Tanto, and you have a compound Tanto, so hollow grind initial, and then you have the flat grind out here, which is cool. It is slicey. It's nice and thin. This is definitely a blade that is more, it looks cool, and it's still functional, but obviously it was more, about the looks than it was being able to tackle every task as efficiently as possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. At this tier, this is what people are looking for. And I always talk about this. If you are newer to knives, or maybe you're not new to knives, you've just never purchased a knife that costs more than about $30 or $40. The question that people have is, that's beyond who would ever spend that much on a knife, even though the answer is lots and lots of people. The question that a lot of these people have is, why would anyone buy, don't these people know that these elements are making, it less convenient? I mean, these are elements that, reduce the potential utility of the object. And to those people, I would say you have to understand that all of the people shopping in this territory already know that and have already climbed the ladder and explored all of their desires and all of their needs in the realm of utility, which typically hangs out prominently around that $30 to $200 range. Is very, very, very utility oriented, and sometimes we have a little bit of, designy stuff mixed in. Once we get up here into these more expensive tiers, the need for hyper utilitarian elements is still present, but it's not nearly as prominent. So a lot of what people are paying for are embellishments, or elements that do not add to utility, generally speaking. So it's not nearly as important that the thing is as perfectly functionally, it's not so like perfectly oriented into the realm of utility, right? And honestly, this really shouldn't be that hard of a thing to understand. I think people kind of misunderstand it on purpose so that they can complain about it, which is a ridiculous waste of time. So anyways, what the heck is this guy talking about? Here's what I think. I think this looks awesome. The Tanto blade is going to create a problem for people who are going to use this knife consistently and are going to have to obviously resharpen it. It's a very subtle change here, the angle. So this is going to be rounded. And honestly, what I would do if I was going to carry this, the very first time I sharpened it, I would just sharpen it as if it was all one edge. And that's going to make it look a little bit wonky, but I would not take the time personally to sharpen each of these edges individually. I think that it's silly, right? I mean, I would just go ahead and round it out. But a lot of people look at this and say, well, that's, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to enjoy how that looks over time. So that's, going to be a deal breaker for me. And it might be a deal breaker for you, like the blade shape and the fact that we have two different edges here, that might be a deal breaker for you. And that's a choice that that's something you'll have to decide for yourself. But it does look cool. I like how it looks. We have hollow here and then flat here. It's very thin here. So this is nice. This area right here is very cool. And I love that I can get my finger in there and do the reverse flick and catch those little ledges. As you can see, we already have a little piece of debris hanging out there. That's going to be a gunk trap for sure. You're going to need probably, if you carry this a lot in and out of your pocket, right? Which there absolutely will be people carrying and using this knife. This thing in and out of your pocket, that's going to get filled up with lint after a single day of carry. So you either need to just accept it and not let it bother you, or probably use compressed air on a regular basis, right? You probably could, take a Q-tip, and I wouldn't do water because water will probably get trapped in there. You could do a Q-tip and something that, really pulls the stuff out. You could use a little tiny bit of break-free CLP. Though when you do that, you also would get a little bit of oil trapped in there, which would probably attract further lint. So if you do that, you have to really vigorously clean it back out. So ultimately, this is going to be a thing where the person carrying it is just going to throw their hands up and say, I don't care anymore. And ultimately, it really won't affect the cutting performance or even your ability to deploy it, because the ledges are it's so deep. It's also like tapered, right? So these ledges are actually closer here than they are under here. I don't think, unless you have it absolutely caked with mud, I don't think it's going to affect how it deploys. But something to think about. It'll bother some people more than others. Backspacer looks good. I love how it's nested into an area of the frame that has been widened out to accent the backspacer. I think that's cool. It's a very not lazy way to do that. Usually we just do the simple backspacer, right? I'll use my own knife. We just do a well, you know what? I can't really even fault Sergio for this, because he did actually create a little secondary. This is an element of my knife that I didn't even realize until just now. But there is actually a little teeny tiny bit of change in the milling for the area for the backspacer. But typically, you would see just a very simple flat backspacer. So that's very cool that he did that. No lanyard hole, who cares? The pocket clip is less than the halfway point on the knife, which is great. Not sharp anywhere. We have pretty good retention, like pretty tight, but there's also a nice ramp underneath that bill, so it looks good. And it's very easy to get in and out of the pocket. The relief cut on this guy is on the inside, so that's going to be a nice visual thing for a lot of people. Not going to be something that, well, I don't know. The way that I started that sentence was stupid. People who do not like to see the relief cut are going to be happy that I was looking at what's under this clip here. We're going to talk about that here in a sec. I didn't notice that until now. People who don't like to look at the relief cutter are going to be happy that it's on the inside. There's a little divot underneath there that I just noticed right there. It's like a little resting zone for the pocket clip. I don't know why. I would think that would slow you down in and out of the pocket, but I didn't notice it until now, and honestly, I've not had any issues with this knife coming in and out of the pocket, so okay. The stop pin is attached to the blade and rides on little channels carved out on either side of the titanium, so internal stop for the open position and the closed position. No blade play, up, down, left to right, no lock stick, no pivot lash. Now, very smooth. Nice clicky detent, and I think this has wandered slightly. Has it? It's in my imagination. It has not wandered slightly. Yes, it looks very, very close. It's not actually touching anything. Base price. This is a Riot-produced knife. Riot stuff is expensive. They typically do a little better job than most of their competition. We have, we have contouring and texturing. Yes, the scales are contoured. It's two bevels, but each bevel has subtle contouring. Custom pivot. We have texturing. In this case, we have a blue PVD Magna Cut blade that is a compound grind. We have a milled clip and a milled backspacer, and there's a lot of additional attention to detail here. That being said, this is still pretty pricey. The base price, the simplest version of this knife, the one you're looking at here is $375. The simplest version, the least expensive version of this knife is $365. That's a lot. But does it deserve to be in the $300 territory? Yes, it does. There are enough elements here. There's enough effort. There's enough material, right? And it's executed well enough that it does deserve to be in the $300 territory. Should it be $365? That feels high. I think like $325 to $330 would have felt a lot more reasonable. This is definitely a knife that is past the 200s. Like there's enough here that it absolutely is justified in the $300 territory. So yeah, it just feels a little bit high, and it's probably because we have two parties involved. We have Riot and we also have Crescent edges, and both parties need to make money in order for it to make any sense. It is still well within the general parameters of where Riot knives fall, but we can't just say, well, it's more expensive because Riot. Riot does do a little better job, and they deserve, in that, like, not because the word Riot is on the blade, but because Riot is synonymous with generally a higher tier of execution, and they do a really good job, right? But we can't just, be throwing these price tags out than justifying them willy-nilly. Like, personally, and this is still very subjective, right? I'm not giving you, this is my opinion, and I'm not telling you that I can tell you where every single dollar is going, but I can tell you based on the incredible library of other products that I have experienced over the thousands and thousands of uploads on this channel, that this feels more like a $325 to $330 knife, right? It's still very cool. Is this something I would recommend to the general knife lover? Well, no, it's a very, very expensive product, right? But for people who have climbed the ladder and are in this territory, you're shopping for a knife between $300 and $400. There's a lot of great stuff out there, but this is not a bad choice at all. I think this is really cool. If you like the flashiness, if you like the style of Crescent edges, you're familiar with Riot's quality, right? And you still want the knife to be functional enough. Like maybe you looked at the Spade and the Eternal and thought those are cool, but it's I feel like it would slow me down, right? You still want something that's more leaning towards the side of practicality and utility, but still has some of that spiciness in there, even if it does not perfectly equate to day-to-day utility. Well, then I think you might really like this. So for those people, I would say yes, that is for you. For the average person, absolutely not. This was not made for you. So yeah, just kind of decide what it is that you're looking for, what you're after, and what kind of knife person you are. But this might be something that you'll enjoy. If you are the type of person to enjoy a knife like this, which would be somebody like me, somebody who is a collector, enthusiast, and user, then you will very much enjoy this, and you'll consider it money well spent. That's going to be it for today, guys. Thanks again to Crescent Edges. Assuming that he's going to let me keep this, by the way, if you're wondering, yes, this is a knife that I do want to keep in my collection. I think it's awesome. I don't see too many knives with blue PVD blades. So I think that's cool. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.